Whether you're starting a nonprofit or you've been running one for a couple of years, having a strong strategy for the next 12 months is really critical to inspiring and focusing not just yourself, but your team. So how do you get started creating a plan for the next 12 months and wrapping your brain around all those important things you need to consider? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. Welcome back. My name is Amber Melanie Smith, and I am a nonprofit founder and executive director who also makes these videos on YouTube to help other folks trying to make an impact, whether that's through nonprofits, social enterprise, or other ways. As always, I hope that you find this video and the others in my collection useful and helpful to you on your social impact journey. Don't forget to give it a like and share with folks that you think might be interested in this topic. I also have a website, foundertofulltime.com, where I have some online trainings for people starting a nonprofit or developing a sustainable fundraising plan. So important. So you can go check those out there. All right, so let's get into this. Nonprofits have used a process called strategic planning for decades and decades, but I think what the last couple of years has really taught us is that some things are a little unpredictable, and sometimes you've got to be a little more agile than being able to plan 3 to 5 years out in advance, which is what you might be doing if you were doing a more robust, traditional type of strategic plan for your nonprofit. So in this video, as I said before, I'm gonna provide just kind of a beginner's guide to just thinking through just the next 12 months. And you can do this by really knowing what you're about and being able to focus on the core parts of your mission that are gonna be important to you and your team, and then thinking through what are the steps you need to follow to reach incrementally some of those goals for the next year. I'm going to talk through this in about 5 steps, so let's get started with step number 1. Step number 1 is setting a baseline, and this is something you really have to do before you can do anything else like set goals or determine what actions you're going to take. A baseline will tell you where you currently are in achieving your mission. So hopefully you've already done some work determining what the important metrics are for your organization. Some might call these key performance indicators, or some might call them outputs or outcomes for your organization. But basically, these are the specific things that you measure as an organization to know that you're making progress in different areas, from programs to operations and fundraising. And while there are important areas, such as the ones I listed, programs, operations, fundraising, etc., that you want to have specific measurable indicators or measurable outcomes in, you always want to make sure that everything is centered first and foremost on your mission as an organization. Let's remember, things like operations and fundraising and finance, those only exist to ultimately support and uplift your ability to achieve your mission. So let's talk through what some of those example metrics might be for your mission-centered approach here. If you are an organization that is combating food insecurity, a very obvious and straight to the point measurable output might be: how many people did you feed? How many people did you provide food to? How many pounds of food did you salvage from waste and make sure got in the hands of people who could use it? Those types of things. If you are an animal rescue organization, similarly, it could be something like the number of animals that you were able to adopt out into permanent homes. So assuming that you're already measuring these things, you just want to look back at what you counted that you did in the past 12 months, and that is your baseline. If you aren't measuring these things, you might need to do a little bit of extra foundational work to gather the information that you need to understand how many people or animals or whatever it is based on your mission did you serve, did you help this past 12 months. That is where you came from. That is your baseline. So then you know, based on this baseline, you can increase the next 12 months as your goal. Now that you've focused on the metrics that are critical to your mission and your programs, you can think about the other types of categories that we talked about before, like operational baselines or financial baselines. Financial should be pretty straightforward. It should be how much money did you bring in and how much did you spend in the past year? Something you can hopefully find in your bookkeeping and budgeting. For operational things, you want to be thinking about leadership and infrastructure. So on the leadership side, you might consider, who do we have on the team? Are we missing anyone who might have an important skill set? Do we have like a talent or skill gap on our team? Do we need to recruit someone in particular? What are basically the skill sets you have across your whole team? And that could be your board of directors, your staff if you have staff, and then maybe a core group of volunteers. And then infrastructure wise, what are some of the things that you haven't yet put in place that you think you might need to? So what's your baseline with your infrastructure? What are your next steps that you might need to be thinking about to grow the strength of your organization? This leads seamlessly into step number 2, which is identifying those specific areas for investment. And when I say investment, I am talking about either financial or your time and your social capital and other things you might invest into accomplishing something. So once you've established your baseline metrics across your program, your mission, all that stuff, your finances, fundraising, operations, etc., you can start to take a step back and look at all of these metrics that you've collected and ask yourself, which ones do you feel like maybe have fallen behind or aren't quite meeting your expectations? Those are the ones that you might choose to focus on in the next 12 months. Alternatively, you might say to yourself, you know what? This strategy that we did in the past 12 months that led us to this baseline is really working, and we as an organization want to invest even more in that thing. So it's either investing in something you're doing really well in, your strengths, what's going well, or seeking to compensate on what's not going as well. What are your weaknesses to bring them up to your expectations? Let's think through an example that relates to your program or, the vehicle through which you are achieving your mission as a nonprofit organization. Let's say that you are an animal rescue nonprofit and you're doing really well at getting animals adopted into homes, but for some reason, the animals keep getting returned and you're having a hard time keeping them in their new homes. Well, this metric, this baseline, might give you an opportunity to think about what's going on there. Maybe the pet and the family they're sent home with are not a good fit, and you could do some work on improving how you assess a family. Maybe the people who adopt the animals are not sufficiently educated on what it's going to take to take care of the animal. And so frustrated, they return the pet. Then you could think through maybe some opportunities for further education of the people adopting the pets. So you see, understanding what's going well and what's not going well can help you determine which of these areas you might want to work further on. From an operations standpoint, maybe you did well with fundraising this past year, but it's really hard for you to track how you're spending your money effectively, and because you don't have a sufficient bookkeeping system. So then your area of weakness that you might choose to invest in is strengthening your bookkeeping practices. Or maybe you have a board of directors that is really excited about your mission, but is terrified of fundraising and just does not participate in any fundraising activities. That's an opportunity for growth too. Maybe you can work on developing some fundraising training or helping them practice or getting them more confident and comfortable with it. So that would be an example that you might identify through looking at your baseline for operational leadership. That leads us to step number 3, which is setting goals with your team. Now, it's important to include your team in the goal setting process. And once again, by your team, I mean your board of directors, potentially your staff, and even if you have some core volunteers that you work with regularly, possibly even them. Including them in the process of setting goals, because ultimately they're going to be the ones responsible for executing on the actions that will meet the goals. So it's really important to understand if they have the confidence, the ability to reach the goals, and what they think is possible. Also, having this as a team discussion can just be really motivating. When you gather everyone together and take a look at the baseline, so what you accomplished in the past 12 months, where you are right now, when you look at the areas that you might want to invest in, once again, either doubling down on things you're excelling in or taking actions that would help you compensate for a weakness. It's really important to not overfill your list of goals that you want to accomplish. I recommend choosing just one or two of the most important, most strategic goals that you can take in each category. So programs, operations, and leadership and finance. Because if you do too many, then your team's going to get distracted by all of these different things they have to accomplish. And either they're going to not do any one thing particularly well, or they might even get demoralized because there's just too much to do. So just choosing one or two things in each category can really help the whole team focus in on those things. I'll talk through a couple of casual examples of a goal that you might set for each of the categories we've talked about. So programs, operations, and fundraising. And what's really important as you're deciding what your goal is going to be and writing it out is that you choose something that is very specific and measurable and achievable within the next 12 months. Now, some of you might recognize this as what's called a SMART goal. So look that up if you're not familiar. But getting into these examples, let's say an example for programs might be you served X number of people in the past 12 months and you want to increase that number by 10% in the next 12 months. So it's measurable. I will know when I've hit the goal of 10% more because I will count the number of people that I've served and I will see that it's 10% more than the past year. Another example in the fundraising realm might be we are going to attract 25 new donors to support our organization than we had the year before. So this is growth in your fundraising pool. It's widening your audience of potential donors. Maybe on the leadership and operations category, it is that you identified a particular gap in a skill or professional talent that would really benefit your organization and its leadership in the next 12 months. And you're gonna go and find the perfect candidate to fill that role who has that skill set. Okay, we are on to step 4 of this process, which is identifying needed resources. Now, at this point, you have set your baseline, you've looked at your data from the past 12 months, you have identified areas of weakness or strength that you might want to invest further in, and you've gathered your team and you've set some measurable goals for the next 12 months. Now, we know that goals don't just magically get accomplished. It takes that investment of time and resources into them. So in this step, we need to think through what are the resources, and by that, again, could mean money, could mean time, could be special tools or equipment or software, stuff like that. What are the things you need to have in order to be able to accomplish the goals that you set? You want to look at each goal and kind of walk it backwards and think, okay, well, if we're going to do this, we really need this software, or we really need a volunteer with this skill set, or we need to raise enough money to hire an additional staff person, etc. So you're thinking through and deciding what are the specific needs you have in order to accomplish the goals that you set. In step 5, the final step of this process, we're going to break that down even further. So to recap, we set our baseline. We looked at our areas that need investment. We've set goals with our team. We've considered what resources we need to achieve those goals. Now you're going to break that all into much smaller steps, and you might even create a timeline to determine what month you're going to focus on each of those steps. It's important to break all of these bigger goals and even the goal of getting a resource you need to achieve a goal into steps, because otherwise these tasks can seem super overwhelming and that's just discouraging. So we want to make sure that we're in a position to accomplish these things incrementally. If you're creating a written plan for your next 12 months, which I highly encourage and hope that you do, then what this might actually look like on paper is you have your baseline, you have next to that what your goal is going to be for the next 12 months. And then under that, you might have the sub actions that you need to take in order to get the resources you need to achieve the goal and then ultimately achieve the goal. I think the best way to illustrate this is by using one of the examples from before. So let's say that your goal is to increase the number of people that your organization serves by 10%. Well, you've determined that in order to do this, you need some resources. You need to probably hire a new program manager so that they can manage the program and have the capacity to handle 10% more. And in order to do that, you need to raise enough money to hire that position. And then let's say on top of that, you also need to do some outreach and marketing in order to reach more people in the community so that they know your services are available and you can serve them. So those are all the things you need to do in order to reach that larger goal of increasing your services to 10% more people. Okay, well, now that you know that you need to do those things, you can break those down into smaller steps. For example, to raise the money to hire the program manager, you could do the smaller steps of first creating a fundraising plan with your team. You could identify how much you might want to raise from sponsors and then identify 20 potential sponsors who might be interested in supporting your fundraising campaign in order to hire this position. You could then set meetings with 20 of these potential sponsors and see who's interested. So you're breaking it down into these smaller steps that will lead to that goal of raising the money, which will then help you hire the program manager, which will then help you serve 10% more people. And that's really how it works for each of these goals. You're starting with the big picture, you're getting your data together, your baseline, you know where you've been coming from, you know where you want to go through the goals that you set with your team, and you're breaking it down into smaller actions. Voila. All right, well, I would love to hear more from you now. Where are you in this process of figuring out your strategy and what you're gonna do to meet your goals for the next 12 months? I'd love to hear more about it. Share in the comments below. As I mentioned before, if you are starting a nonprofit or developing a fundraising plan for your nonprofit, definitely check out my online trainings and resources at foundertofulltime.com. I also have a newsletter that I send out for nonprofit leaders, social entrepreneurs, change makers of all types that you can subscribe to using the link in my comments and description below this video. So definitely check that out. I send out these resources and you can unsubscribe anytime you'd like. Finally, if you've seen my other videos, you know what's coming next. I have a group on Facebook called Change the World or Bust. We've got a couple thousand people in there from all around the world who are doing good and sharing their mission with others, and we'd love to see you there. So come check that out. It's Change the World or Bust. That's all I have for you today. It was great seeing you again. My name's Amber Melanie Smith, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.